All right, let's come to our mats and we'll come to kneeling if that works for you. If it doesn't, you can come to seated. You can also, if you have a block, you can always sit up on a block if you want to. But if you're okay with sitting back on the heels, try that. But it's bothering you, don't sit there and stay there. But let's bring the palms to face up. So one hand stacked on top of the other, just in your lap. And then lift the chest, close the eyes, trying to line up the head right over the hips. Tip of the nose points forward and down a little bit. Start to take a deep breath in through the nose. Back out through the mouth. 2 more like that. Deep breath in. Slow exhale out through the mouth. Last one like that. Deep inhale in through the nose. Fill all the way up. Slow exhale out of the mouth. This time, breathe in through the nose. Back out through the nose. Keep going with this Ujjayi breath. Chest stays lifted. Those lowest front ribs hug in a little bit, so careful if you feel like you're puffing them out. Belly can hug in a little bit. Blink open the eyes. Come forward so you bring the hands down to the mat, just enough so you could tuck the toes underneath you. So coming into a toe tuck. Before you come all the way back, make sure the 4th and 5th toe are going forward. If you have feet that you have to manually adjust. Sit back up onto the heels. And if it's too much for the feet, then keep the hands down on the mat. You can stay there. If you're fine, you're coming right back into that tall posture, but you'll bring the arms forward, right arm on top of left arm, and then just give yourself a hug. So you're bringing the palms of the hands to the shoulder blades or wherever they reach, shoulders away from the ears, elbows down toward the chest. So if they're going up toward the face, bring them down so that they're pointing down toward the mat. And this is a nice way to open up the upper body. It's a gentle way. You're still with the same breath that we started with. And you'll reach the arms forward, switching the crossing. So left arm on top of right. Give yourself a hug, elbows down. Still breathing in and out through the nose. Moving the breath up and down the back of the throat. And you'll release the arms, bring the hands back down to the mat, untuck the feet so tops of the feet are on the mat. Sit back onto the heels again. Keep the hands down on the mat. So I just have my hands on either side of the legs. We'll come into an ankle stretch coming into the top of the foot. So maybe you just stay right here. You could play with lifting the knees up in toward the chest, getting into the tops of the feet. If it bothers you, skip it. You can just come back to kneeling. But this can often feel nice after a toe tuck. Hugging the core in, keeping the chest lifted, and then slowly set the knees back down onto the mat. Bring the feet over to one side and you're coming to seated, legs out in front of you. And let's just come into it, a gentle forward fold. So you'll sit even on the sit bones, maybe shifting side to side. Reach the arms all the way up, and on the exhale, fold down over the legs. So don't worry about grabbing the feet. We're just trying to get some length back into the legs after they've been bent this whole time. Head and neck can go just a gentle, easy. Slouching's okay. So any rounding in the upper back can be fine for this one. I just have my arms resting on my legs. Could have hands on the mat too. If your feet are right there and you're not going to reach to get them, then feel free to grab them. And we'll start to roll back up, come onto your back. So soles of the feet to the mat, scoot yourself forward, lying down onto your mat, hug the knees in toward the chest, extend the legs up, cross the right ankle in front of the left, so right foot in front of the left foot, interlace the fingers back behind the head, take an inhale. On the exhale, lift the chest up and away from the mat. Inhale back, exhale up. You're squeezing those inner thighs together. Inhale back, exhale up, elbows wide. Inhale back, exhale up. One more like this. Inhale back, exhale up. Stay up, switch the crossing of the legs. So other foot in front, left foot in front of right. Inhale back, exhale up. Inhale back, exhale up. Inhale back, exhale up. Two more. Inhale back, exhale up. Last one. Inhale back, exhale up. Stay up, reach the arms up, and then uncross the legs. Arms reach forward, palms face up. Slowly start to lower the legs out in front of you. Keep squeezing those inner thighs together. And you can stop whenever you want to. Maybe you hover the heels just above the mat, coming into Ardha Navasana. Chest is lifted, belly hugs in. You might feel some shaking. Just breathe with it. Inner thighs still squeezing together, core still hugging in. Let's take it up to Navasana, boat pose. Chest is lifted, and you're trying to get a straight line in the spine. So you're making a V shape with the body. Legs could be straight in your Navasana, or you could have bent knees. See which one feels better. Sometimes when we have the legs straight, it just gets into the hip flexors so much that it's just not even worth it. So you just come into a bent leg position. And come to an easy cross-legged seat. Come forward to hands and knees, tabletop. So once you get to tabletop, stack the shoulders over the wrists, hips over the knees. Let's turn the hands around. So you can either turn the hands so the fingertips point toward the sides of the mat, or maybe they point toward the thighs. And we'll take some circles first. So start to circle the shoulders over the wrists. Do that a couple times. See how comfortable you are with it. Fingers still spread evenly. Maybe the circles start to get a little bigger and the hips get a little bit more involved. So you're making bigger circles over the wrists with the shoulders. Inhaling forward, exhaling back. And then switch the direction, go the other way. You might need to go a little smaller with the circles to start, just to get used to reversing the direction. And then as you get comfortable, you can make those circles bigger if you want to. Come back to a neutral spine. Stillness, turn the hands to face forward. Few rounds of cat-cow. On the inhale, reach the heart forward, lift the tail. On the exhale, round the whole spine, chin in toward the chest. Keep going on your own. And last one, forward and back. You'll come back to tabletop, bring the forearms down to the mat. Take forearm plank. So walk the feet back behind you, legs firm, chest reaching forward, pressing down into the hands, the forearms. Legs are strong. Keep the feet hip width distance apart, maybe a little bit wider, just enough so that you can bring both heels over to the right. Both forearms stay down on the mat. You're on the sides of the feet. Maybe you stay here, or you could bring the left arm up, coming into a forearm side plank. Right hand can come in toward the center of the mat if you want more space in that right shoulder. So that's something to play with. Scissor those inner thighs. Keep hugging the belly in. Left forearm comes back down to the mat, back to forearm plank on the balls of the feet. Both heels go over to the left. Right arm maybe reaches up, forearm side plank, same thing, other side. Left hand can come in if you need more space on that shoulder. Legs are strong. They're lengthening away from you, the legs. Back to forearm plank, right forearm down to the mat, back to the balls of the feet. Set the hips down to the mat, rest, tops of the feet to the mat. You can stack the hands, one on top of the other, forehead down. Then lift the head up, reach the arms back behind you, palms face one another, press into the tops of the feet, lift and spread the chest. Just a gentle back bend to start. So you don't need to lift the chest as high as you can possibly go. Lengthen the lower back by pointing the tailbone back toward the heels. And rest. You can come back to that stacking of the hands, rest the forehead down, or arms down by the sides. You can turn the head to one side, whichever one sounds better. Coming right back in. So reach the arms back behind you, hands squeeze together, press into the tops of the feet, lift and spread the chest. Shoulders away from the ear, back of the neck is long. Core, so the belly hugs in. So if you feel like you're pushing into the mat with the stomach, lift it up a little bit. And release, rest. Last round, lift and spread the chest, arms back behind you. Come all the way up. So whatever height makes the most sense. Maybe it's higher than the first two rounds, but it doesn't have to be. You could also hover the feet, but try not to lift them too high. Go for length more than height. So they're just barely not touching the mat. And set it all back down. Rest the head. This time you can lift the feet up and move the feet side to side like windshield wipers. And set the feet back down onto the mat, hands to the mat, come up to hands and knees, child's pose, big toes together, sit the hips back, arms out in front of you. Let's bring the forehead down to the mat. Downward facing dog. Lift the heels up high, trying to get them over the balls of the feet. Make sure the feet are hip width distance, maybe a little bit wider. Bring both heels over to the right. So just like we did before, but you're staying in down dog. Then push the hips up and back. So sometimes the hips want to go forward toward the hands. You want to push them up and back. Legs stay straight. Come back up, balls of the feet, heels high. This time heels go the other way, both heels over to the left. Heel, push the hips up and back. Legs are straight. Back to downward facing dog. Heels descend down toward the mat. Then bend the knees, look forward, start to walk the feet up to the hands. Take your time, coming into a forward fold at the top of the mat. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. 2 more like that. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Last one. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Let's come all the way up. Circle the arms up on the inhale. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat. Step the left foot back behind you, coming into a runner's lunge. So fingertips still on the mat, chest is reaching forward. That left leg is long. And the knees lifted if you're okay with that. Left hand underneath the left shoulder, right arm reaches up for a twist. Keeping that left thigh lifting away from the mat, and left shoulder away from the left ear. Turn that right palm to face behind you. Take a half bind, right arm behind the back. Let's get into that right side chest and shoulder a little bit more. Right arm reaches all the way back up, right hand down to the mat. Step that left foot forward, top of the mat. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Right foot steps back behind you. Runner's lunge, other side. Trying to take the rounding out of the upper back if you can. Right hand underneath the right shoulder, left arm reaches up for that twist. Keep the right thigh lifted, right shoulder away from the right ear. Turn that left palm to face behind you. Wrap the left arm behind the back. Left arm reaches back up toward the sky. Left hand down to the mat. Step that right foot forward, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, bend the knees, hands to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Lower all the way down to the mat slowly. See if you can hover just above the mat for a beat and then set the body down all at the same time. Tops of the feet to the mat, setting up for cobra, hands back by the lower ribs. Lift and spread the chest. Not your first back bend, so you can go a little higher if you want to. And exhale, release. Downward facing dog. Either plank or hands and knees to get back to downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. Surya A. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands to the mat, back to plank pose. Lower down halfway chaturanga, up dog or cobra. Back to down dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise all the way up to standing. Hands come together at the top, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat, back to plank pose, lower down halfway chaturanga. Inhale for your back bend. Exhale back, down dog. Bend the knees, look forward, feet up, forward fold at the top of the mat. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale all the way up to standing. Hands together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose, lower down halfway chaturanga. Inhale up for your back bend. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Step the right foot up between the hands. Come back into your runner's lunge. Feet are hip width distance apart. Reach the arms back behind you, hovering low over this front thigh. Chest is open, building some heat in the legs. So you're trying to stack that right knee over the right ankle. Left leg stretching back behind you. Come all the way up, crescent pose. Reach the arms forward, palms facing up. Left arm underneath the right arm, eagle arm. So you could just grab the shoulders. You could bring the backs of the forearms together, and you could bring the left fingertips inside of the right hand. Keep the lunge in the front knee. Another option, if you have eagle arms, you could start to lift the forearms up, and that's a deeper opening across the upper back. It'll also challenge your balance a little bit. If you lifted the forearms, bring the elbows back in line with the shoulders. Straighten the front leg. Turn the toes to face the left. See if you can keep the eagle arms. Then bring the heels in and the toes out. Toes aren't going as wide as they can go, maybe halfway, maybe less. And then bend the knees, keep the eagle arms, keep that chest lifted. So chest lifts, tail's going down. Belly lifts. Maybe you sit a little lower, lift the chest a little higher. Then straighten the legs, keep your eagle arms, toes point forward, fold down over the legs with straight legs. So you might get low enough to get the forearms to rest down on the ground. Don't worry if it doesn't happen. Same thing that we did before. If you bring the elbows forward, the forearms forward, you get that pull in the upper back. That can feel good for some of us. Then unwind the arms, grab the ankles, feet, legs, whatever's right there. Let the head and the neck go. Then come back to a lunge facing the top of the mat. Walk the hands to the top of the mat, turn the toes to point forward, step back to downward facing dog. Stay here or vinyasa. Left foot steps up. Runner's lunge. Feet hip width. Stay here, fingertips underneath the shoulders. Get your foundation with the legs. Make sure you're using the back leg. Then reach the arms back behind you, hovering low over the front thigh. Outer hips hug in toward the midline. All the way up, crescent pose. Arms reach forward, palms face up, left arm on top of right, coming into some version of eagle arms. Don't feel like you have to bring those right fingertips inside the palm of the hand. can always just bring the backs of the hands together, and grabbing the shoulders is still up as an option. Maybe you start to lift the forearms up toward the sky. Elbows come back in line with the shoulders if you lifted them. Straighten the front leg. Turn the toes to the right. Heels in, toes out. Keep the chest lifted. Just bend the knees. Wide-legged squat, goddess, with eagle arms. Belly lifts, chest lifts. Straighten the legs. Turn the toes to point forward. Fold over the legs. Keep the eagle arms. Lifting the muscles in the legs. So think about lifting the kneecaps. And release the arms. Bring the hands to the ankles, legs, feet. Let the head and the neck go. Prasarita Padottanasana. Wide-legged forward fold. Hands in front of the shoulders. Turn the toes to the top of the mat. Step back to downward facing dog. Stay here or vinyasa. These vinyasas are optional. Skip them whenever you want. Only do them if they're feeling good. Few breaths in dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Utkatasana, chair pose. Bend the knees, reach the arms up. Come all the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. So same thing we did before, reach the arms forward, palms facing up. This time, left arm on top of right, find eagle arms here. So don't worry about the legs, just get the upper body. Elbows in line with the shoulders, hands in line with the elbows. Chair pose, so keep the arms, bend the knees. Chest is lifted, belly hugs in. Can you shift the weight over to the right foot, cross the left leg high up over the right leg? That left foot, it can be a kickstand, so the toes can be down on the mat. You could just flex the foot and keep it out to the side, spreading the toes. Some of you can hook the foot behind the right calf. Listen to your knees, don't force anything. Maybe you start to fold forward over the legs. Just an option, skip it if it's not working. Left leg reaches back behind you. You might need to lift the chest if you're a little bit low. Left leg reaches back behind you. Just a quick warrior 3. Tap that ball of the left foot down to the mat. Lift the chest. You're back in crescent pose with the eagle arms. Lift the chest as much as you want. Forearms can reach up too if you want. Straighten the front leg. Toes go to the left, facing the side of the mat. Heels in, toes out. Bend the knees, wide-legged squat. Chest stays lifted. Shoulders away from the ears. Belly lifts. Straighten the legs, toes point forward. Fold down over the legs, maybe keeping the eagle arms. Forearms can reach forward. And release the arms. Arms go out wide, grab the outer legs, whatever you can reach, and then you can flare out the elbows. Maybe the head comes a little closer to the mat, but shoulders are still moving away from the ears. Then lift the head, bring the hands in front of the shoulders, coming up onto the fingertips. Turn the toes to the top of the mat. Step back, downward facing dog. Stay here for a few breaths or vinyasa. Bend the knees, look forward, walk, step, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Back to chair pose. Bend the knees, reach the arms up. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Other side, arms reach forward, palms face up. This time, right arm on top of left arm, find the eagle arms. Did I say that right? Right arm on top of left arm. Bend the knees, sit back, chair pose. Keep those eagle arms. Shift the weight over to the left foot, lift the right heel. If that outer left hip's swinging out to the side, you need to bring it in. That'll help with your balance. Then cross that right leg high up over the left leg. Your foot, the right foot, might be in a different spot. Maybe on this side, it's more of a kickstand, or you spread the toes, keeping the foot lifted, or you hook the foot. Folding forward is the next option. Squeezing everything in toward the midline. Legs squeeze tight, arms squeeze tight, shoulders away from the ears. If you're down pretty far, you'll need to lift the chest up. You'll know. Right leg reaches back behind you. Hover in a warrior 3. Reach those forearms forward. Then step that right foot back, crescent pose. Lifting the arms, the chest, maybe the gaze. Straighten that front leg, toes go to the right. Bend the knees, toes out just a little bit. Keep the chest lifted, wide across the upper back. Belly lifted. Straighten the legs, turn the toes to point forward, fold over the legs. Release the arms. Let the head and the neck go. Keep the control of the legs, so try not to keep them relaxed. You want to keep lifting the muscles up. Outer hips in. Hands underneath the shoulders, lift the chest up halfway, turn the toes to the top of the mat, step back, downward facing dog, stay here or take a vinyasa. Maybe feeling that upper body start to open. You can get the shoulders away from the ears and your up dogs and back down dog. Plenty of space for the neck. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, hop, feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose, bend the knees, reach the arms up. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. This time, reach the arms forward, palms facing up. Let's bring the left arm on top of the right arm, find eagle arms. Bend the knees, sit back, chair pose, chest is still lifted. Shift the weight over to the right foot, lift the left heel. Right leg crosses high up, left leg crosses high up over the right leg. Fold forward. Taking it to warrior 3. So lift the chest if you need to, depends on how low you go. Stretch that left leg back. Keep reaching the forearms forward. Inner thighs are working. You're spinning that left inner thigh up toward the sky. Bend the standing leg, reach back with the ball of the left foot, crescent with eagle arms. Straighten the front leg, turn the toes to face the left. Heels in, toes out, wide-legged squat. Come all the way back up to standing, toes point forward. This time, interlace the fingers behind the back. Stretch those knuckles back behind you, shoulders away from the ears. Fold forward, knuckles go back behind the head. Hands come down to the mat. Bring the hands underneath the shoulders, lifting the chest up halfway. Turn the toes to the top of the mat, finding a runner's lunge. And then from here, step back to plank pose. So plant the hands, step back to plank pose, one forearm at a time, forearm plank. Bring the feet all the way together. Both heels over to the left, forearm side plank. Right arm reaches up. Legs are long back behind you. Push that mat away from you. Maybe you turn the right palm to face forward and reach it up and over the ear. Back to forearm plank. Feet hip width distance apart. Dolphin. Lift the hips up. Walk the feet in as much as you can until the body tells you to stop. Push the mat away from you. We did so much work on the upper back. Here's a pose where you can feel it. You're not getting as much resistance as you typically would behind the chest. Belly hugs in. Get some weight into the legs. Then start to walk the feet back, forearm plank. One hand at a time, plank pose, down dog. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Just pause here, close the eyes, press the hands into one another, shoulders away from the ears. Check in with how you feel. Sometimes we only do it at the beginning of class and at the end of class, but here's your peak. How are you feeling at the peak of class? Just the other side to do. Blink open the eyes, reach the arms forward. This time, right arm on top of left, eagle arms. Bend the knees, sit back, chair pose. Weight goes to the left foot, lift the right heel, right leg high up over the left leg. Fold forward. Warrior three, lift the chest if you're down low, stretch that right leg back behind you. Stay in your warrior three, reach those forearms forward so you get that length in the front side of the body. Bend the standing leg, reach back with the ball of the right foot, crescent pose with eagle arms. Straighten the front leg, turn the toes to the right. Heels in, toes out a little bit. You might need to adjust the feet. Bend the knees, keep the chest lifted, wide-legged squat. Knees and toes in the same direction. So you can open up those knees as much as you want. Just make sure the toes follow. Straighten the legs, point the toes forward, interlace the fingers behind you, one finger over. Knuckles go back, shoulders away from the ears, fold over the legs. Hands to the mat, lift up halfway, turn the toes to the top of the mat, hands down, step back to plank pose, forearm plank. Feet together, bring the feet over to the right, forearm side plank, left arm reaches up. Right shoulder away from the ear, legs squeezing together. Turn that left palm to face forward. Reach that left arm up and over the ear if you did it on the first side. Forearm plank. Feet hip width, dolphin. Lift the hips up, start to walk the feet in. And back to forearm plank. Take your time getting there. Walk the feet back. One hand at a time, plank pose. Down dog. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Bend the knees, sit back, chair pose, arms reach up. Even here, maybe feeling that space in the upper body, upper back. Shift the weight over to the right foot, lift that left heel up high, left leg over the right leg, eagle legs. Bring the hands together like prayer, down in front of the heart. Sit as low as you can in the legs, keep the chest lifted, open the chest to the left. Maybe you stay here. You could also hook the elbow on that top thigh. So eagle legs with a twist. Spine's lengthening on your inhales, and you find that twist on the exhale. Come back to center with the upper body. Chair pose. Feet side by side, reach the arms up. And exhale, forward fold, let that go. So you can widen the feet closer to the outer edges of the mat. You can either clasp opposite elbows. You can interlace the fingers behind you. Try not to let the shoulders dump into the ears. Hands come back down to the mat. Heel toe the feet back to hip width distance. Inhale up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold. Bend the knees, Utkatasana. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, sit back, chair pose. Weight shifts over to the left foot. Lift that right heel. Right leg crosses high up over the left leg. Hands come together like prayer, down in front of the heart. Keep the chest open, sit a little lower into the legs. Open the chest to the right this time. Stay here or lean forward. Maybe you hook the elbow on the top thigh. Ujjayi breath. Chest comes back to center. Keep those eagle legs. Chair pose. Arms reach up, feet side by side, knees pointing forward. And exhale, forward fold. Widen the stance of the feet. Go to the outer edges of the mat. Find the opposite of whatever you did before. Clasping opposite elbows the other way, or interlacing the fingers one finger over. Hands come back down to the mat. Heel toe the feet back to hip width distance. Inhale up halfway. Hands to the mat, bend the knees, step back to plank pose. Last vinyasa if you want one. Otherwise, go straight to downward facing dog. Bring the knees down to the mat, coming to tabletop. So tops of the feet can rest down, or you can tuck the toes. And then from here, bring the forearms down to the mat. Just walk the elbows forward ahead of the shoulders. Bring the forehead down. Your upper body's pretty open. You're welcome to stay here, or you can bring the hands together like prayer and back behind the head. And maybe the elbows crawl forward a little bit more. Just hug the belly in so you don't dip down into the lower back. Enjoying this puppy dog, setting ourselves up at the end of class so that we can get into this and have it feel really good. Bring the hands back down if they're back behind the head. Lift the head up, come back to tabletop, one hand at a time. And then walk the hands as far forward as you can, still keeping the knees down. Bring that right knee as far forward as you can. This right foot will go to the left, and then you're crossing the legs. So right leg on top of the left leg. So just like eagle legs, but you have both knees down on the mat. You can widen the feet as much as you need to. Start to bring the hips back. Maybe you hover them just above the mat, reaching the arms forward like child's pose. That can be a nice opening in the glutes, the hips, and then eventually we're coming to seated. So the hips will come down between the feet. So you're not seated on the feet. You can always sit yourself up on a blanket, a block, whatever you have. Knees are stacked as best you can. If it's too much with this bottom leg bent, you can extend it. Don't feel like you have to have both legs bent. And then open the chest to the right. Left forearm can rest on this right thigh, and you sit up as tall as you can, pressing into both sit bones, finding this seated twist, gazing in the direction that you're twisting in over the right shoulder. You'll start to bring the gaze back forward, unwind the chest, unwind this bottom leg. So left leg goes straight. Maybe that top leg stays bent, stacking the knees. Reach the arms all the way up, fold over the legs. Hands can come down. You want the hands to touch something, whether that's the mat, the leg, foot. Let the head and the neck go. And start to walk the hands in, coming back up to seated. Extend that right leg forward. Both feet over to one side. Come back to tabletop. Walk the hands forward, way ahead of the shoulders. Left knee comes forward. Start to bring that left foot over to the right so you can bring that leg back, crossing the legs, left leg on top of the right leg. And then start to sit the hips back. See if you can hover away from the mat, arms out in front of you. So it's like child's pose with the legs crossed, head and neck release. And now you can start to sit between the feet. Just make sure you're not seated on this right foot. You might need to sit side to side a little bit till you get even. So sitting up tall, left fingertips back behind you, right forearm, left thigh, start to come into your twist, sitting up as tall as you can. And bring the gaze back forward, unwind the chest. Extend the bottom leg. The right leg goes forward. Left knee on top of right knee, or as close as you can get it without discomfort. Reach the arms all the way up. Fold over the legs. Take your time coming into it. Feel how it goes on this side. Let the head and the neck go. Make sure the hands touch something. And start to come back up to seated. Bring the hands back behind you. Extend that left leg forward. Let's bring feet to the outer edges of the mat, bending the knees, and bring the knees side to side like windshield wipers. Then you'll come back to seated with the legs out in front of you. Another seated forward fold. Take this one wherever you want it to go. Reach the arms all the way up. Paschimottanasana, fold over the legs. So we just did half of this pose on each side. Now we're doing both legs extended out in front of you. One last opening for the back side of the body. And slowly come back up to seated. Walk the feet in. Come on down onto your back. Lying down, hug the knees in toward the chest. You can rock side to side. Then keep hugging the right knee in toward the chest. Extend that left leg out in front of you. Let the heel rest down onto the mat. Right leg extends up. You can grab onto the back of the right thigh, or you can walk the hands up the leg closer to the foot. Right knee comes in toward the chest. Left knee comes in toward the chest. Both hands, left knee, right leg extends out in front of you. Feel the length on the right leg as you bring the left knee in. Then extend that left leg up, hands behind the thigh, or walk the hands up the leg. Heads down on the mat, you're just bringing the leg in closer to you. So you feel a nice opening. Left knee comes in toward the chest, right knee comes in toward the chest. Close the eyes. Take a deep inhale in through the nose. Hold it at the very top. Sip in more air through the mouth. Exhale, Shavasana. Extend the legs out in front of you. Arms down by the sides. Rest. Coming right into stillness after all of those poses. Letting the breath go back to the body, go back to breathing on its own. And you'll start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Stretch the arms overhead, getting as long as you can on your mat, coming back into the body. Start to walk the feet in, bending the knees. Rolling over onto your right side, cradling the head and the arm, keeping the eyes closed. Taking a few breaths here. When you're ready, using the left hand to press yourself up to your meditation seat, whatever that looks like. There's no one way to do it. Chest is lifted, shoulders away from the ears, eyes still closed. Bring the hands together in front of you. Slight bow of the head. Honor and acknowledge your heart and your spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up, blink open the eyes. Namaste. Thank you for sharing your practice, for doing the recording, for coming together as a group. It means so much to me. Hope it does to you too.